Okay. Well, whatever. I'm just gonna start doing this. Yeah, this is a lava lamp loop. And okay, I'm just gonna pretend that the stream is starting now. Just ignore everything that has been happening. Here we go. Hello, this is Mikey Buzan, and welcome to the stream. This is a lava lamp loop that you're seeing on the screen, and I'm gonna be showing how to color really fast and also do some toon shading, and then I'm gonna do some frame by frame spectral highlights. So I'm gonna make all these invisible and just start a fresh loop here. See, this is the toon shaded layer right here, isolated. Looks kind of like a ghost. Could be an interesting abstract loop idea. But here is a different one. This is so these are the rough frames here of a goopy thing, and then here is the clean frames. There's 110 of them. So if you wanted to color this in TVPaint and most other programs that have layers, you just create a new layer underneath it and then go to your paint bucket and make it set to color, and then make it set to above so that it will perfectly fill in all the lines that are above it. Now this is one way to do this. You go frame by frame, just going like this. But a much faster way actually is to use the paint bucket tool and set it to layer. And this will fill in the entire screen. And now what you do is you stretch this frame out so that it's just one super long frame, and you see that it's filled in the entire background on this whole loop here. Well, you might think, I don't want that, because you need multiple frames. So just click the paint bucket again, then select all the frames and click enter or return if you're on Mac. And this is going to create new instances for all 110 frames down here. So I don't have to manually click with my finger 110 times. Hands-free, computer automates it in. And then, alright, so now we have all these instances down here, all these fresh frames, but we still have the issue of the background is colored, and we don't want that. So now what you go to is the paint bucket, and the source you click above, and then instead of color, we're going to do erase. And now, click erase, and the background is erased. Now we could go frame by frame, clicking erase on every single frame, but a much faster way is to find a space on the screen that your animation doesn't go over. So I'll just do this little corner here, click erase, and then select all the frames and click return or enter, and it will automatically erase all of the frames hands-free. And this is a super fast way to color. It's the fastest way I've found to color hundreds of frames. And now we can see that the entire animation is colored. I'll go over and I'll look at this top one. This is the one I think I'm gonna cel shade by hand. It's a little bit shorter. And I'm gonna do the same concept. I'm gonna create a new layer. Click color. Stretch out the colored frame to match the entire length of the animation. Click paint bucket again, enter, and this will fill in new frames or instances of every single frame. Then go to Paint Bucket, click Erase, Source above, and erase it. Click Enter, and we've literally colored 45 frames in probably less than a minute. Insanely fast. I could never figure out a comparable way to do this in Adobe Animate. So yeah, this is already done here. This flat color is completely done. So now I'm gonna try out the Toon Shader. So I would duplicate this layer. So now this layer underneath, these are my flats. I'll just call it flats. And then the one above it, I'm gonna call it Toon Shade. And this is the one I'm gonna put the effects on. So I'll go to my effects stack, and I have my Toon Shader here. And click Preview. So these are all the parameters you can change. And I'm gonna click my layer from color, I'm gonna turn it to add. So now it's gonna create an automatic highlight here. So now we have this highlight around it. And I'm actually gonna turn the background to completely black again, so that it'll pop more. And I'm gonna apply this effect and then do a second Toon Shade to get more variety out of this. And basically these things here, like you can change the size of the Toon Shade, it's at 95 pixels. You can change the angle, rotation, and this little color profile thing here, you open that up and you can change how soft the shading is or how flat it is, how solid it is. And the Toon Shader takes a little longer to apply than just other effects because it has more information it's working with. What's up, Dev Gruel? And howdy, Pratty Wenelf. Do you have any tips for in-betweening? I feel like I rely on onion skin too much, and I also struggle with overlapping action, such as hair. Yeah, I'll go over that once I start cel shading this. So I might deal with the Toon Shade. I might add more Toon Shade stuff later, because I'll start doing a little cel shading. And first I'm gonna change this outline color to this. So I got my color replacer. Now that line work is changing from black to a more yellow, so it'll match the color scheme of this loop a little bit better than just pure black. Sometimes black is just a little too harsh. So first I'm gonna save. Any program you're working in, just save it whenever you do a big thing, because you never know. Alright, so I'm gonna start doing some straight ahead animation on cel shading. So I'm gonna create a new layer down here, and I'm just using the exact same color as the flats, but I'm gonna change it to add, and I'm gonna make my brush a little bigger, maybe 18 pixels, just for the ease of use. And then, so this is what it looks like just with the add layer on, like this. But I'm gonna actually make the opacity down so it blends in a little bit better. And I think I'm gonna do like maybe 25 or 30. I think I like 30. Alright, I'm just gonna delete that. So now I have an idea of how I want the cel shading to look. And I'm just gonna go to here and start filling in some stuff. And just kind of vibing out how I think the kind of spectral type highlights will look to make it feel a little bit less flat, and also maybe slightly, I don't know if translucent's the word, but kind of like it has a more slimy texture. also trying to think how this highlight would go from here to here to here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start doing some frame by frame on this highlight here. Yeah, so to answer the previous question about in-betweening, so I'm gonna turn my onion skinning on, so now I can see my previous frame is here, and I'm just gonna be going straight ahead and going back and forth, scrubbing the frames back and forth to see how this relates to it. I'll go up and paying attention to the fact that the spacing between the in-betweens of this cel shading, it needs to have a natural ease in and ease out. So you can see how it's spacing further here, then it starts to bunch together up here, so it's slowing down. And then I know the cel shading is kind of following the outer contours of this animation. So I'm using that as a guide for how to make this little cel shaded things squash or stretch in a certain direction. So I know the curve is happening here, so the cel shade is going to start following this curve. And we'll just see how this looks right now with 7 frames. So I can see it kind of getting hung up here and jittering, so I need to make this tail end follow through a little bit more. I'll turn my onion skin off. And it's important when you're doing in-betweens to do some looking back and forth without the onion skinning on, because you need to see how each frame looks without all the distracting onion skins around it as well. It's a combination of using the onion skin and turning it off, because it's like having 2 sets of eyes. But I find having the light box on, it helps you get really precise with like really close in-betweens to get things in between each other. But it's if you're doing like a keyframes or just trying to make the drawings look a certain way, then I like to just mostly keep it off and just get the general look down. Because if your keyframes are messed up, then it doesn't matter how good the in-betweens are. You're going in between a messed up key A and a messed up key B. So all the in-betweens will just be compounding the mistakes of the keyframes. But like I said, right now I'm just kind of doing straight ahead animation. I tend to do it mostly straight ahead for cel shading, because it kind of feels like special effects where you're just kind of feeling the flow. But sometimes I will add a few keyframes as guidelines to see, well, I know the cel shading needs to go here eventually. But as you can see, this Toon Shader, super fast to do that, but it's much more tedious to do hand-drawn cel shading. So I kind of like to combine the two when I can, because the Toon Shader is much faster and it's easier for getting just like a general 3D soft shade in. But then you have more control with the hand-drawn cel shading, but this hand-drawn cel shading takes forever. So if you combine the two, you can kind of get a cool hybrid effect. You also have to keep in mind the physical material that you're shading on. Something that's like soft, like cloth or something, a Toon Shader could be great on, but if you're doing a more metallic thing, or even just the visual style you're going for, you just have to know when to use either technique. It's not like one is inherently better or worse. And sometimes with the Toon Shader, I'll go over it by hand and actually draw in some weird mistakes it might have. Like down here, wherever there's like a hard angle, the Toon Shader sometimes doesn't do a super great job. So I'll just take a brush and try to match this look and fill in the space. But that isn't always necessary. And I think I might be messing this up already. It's hard to talk and do stuff. Well, I see how it breaks apart here. I might add a little highlight here where it breaks apart. Sometimes I like these highlights to grow and shrink and dissipate. So I think that's what I'm gonna do with this one. I'm gonna start having this one that I was messing up. I'm just gonna have it dissipate here. Have that other one take over. It's gonna dissipate right here. Slightly smaller brush. Oh yeah, anybody hear music? I'm trying to add music to make these streams even less boring. And it should also be multiple songs. It shouldn't just be one song looping. Also want to be careful I don't add too many of these spectral highlights, because that can just look kind of messy. Okay, so here I'm gonna have this highlight come down here. It's actually gonna bounce back in the opposite direction. Reversals keep animation feeling interesting and alive. So now this highlight's actually going up, and it's gonna start to curve around this tip here. Especially like for this kind of goopy lava lamp stuff, I'm not super duper concerned about accuracy or light direction. I more just go off of vibes, because this is just more abstract, and you can still make things feel more 3D just by having highlights on there. It's more just like, how are these highlights moving in relation to each other? So I can see the light box here, all these frames, it's following an arc, it's going down, and this highlight's just kind of getting a little bit smaller. I'm also trying to keep the relative distance between the highlight and the edge of this animation line. So there's like a gap in between it. I'm not drawing right against the line, because if you draw the highlight right against the line, it looks like that. But if you draw it with a little bit of space, it makes it a little more 3D. Okay. Save my April foolishness. Today I'm drinking tea. Okay, that looks alright. Now there's some jitters. I'll tweak stuff later. For now I'm just trying to get this rocking. Now I'm gonna want a highlight down here to counterbalance this highlight up here. Juxtaposition. There's a fancy art word for you. I had to write an artist statement recently, and my one rule is that I wouldn't use that word or refer to myself in third person. But what I wrote was probably just as cringy. Come out a bit to see the context of what I'm working in. Oh, yeah. Been animating goopy lava stuff and then goopy sea creatures. Lots of goopy stuff. I've been posting animation process reels on Instagram. I finally got Instagram Reels monetized. I I was really excited to get an email from them saying I was invited. And I made 29 cents. So it's all going towards the Toon Boom Fund. Not to hate on TVPaint, but I'm definitely ready to try out another program. Some issues with exporting in TVPaint on Mac with the color. The color is not accurate. It is not the same as what I'm seeing inside my actual project file. It's really frustrating. And they have less options now. On the older version of TVPaint, you could export way more options for ProRes. Now there's like 2 options. And yeah, just like the color is definitely more washed out. And I tried out the demo of Toon Boom, and the color was much better when I exported. So this little spectral highlight is kind of stretching out as the outer lines of this goop stretches out. And so it's gonna start getting skinnier as it comes down here. Oh boy. Turn my onion skin on. Wait, I can't see it. Is anybody working on anything? You can tell me what you're working on in the chat, or if you're watching this on replay, let me know in the comments. What project are you working on? I've been trying to do more personal projects. I saw something that said something like client work feeds your bank account, but personal projects feed your soul. Something like that. Moral of the story was finding a balance between freelancing, client work, commercial work, and personal projects that are not made for other people, but are just truly your own artistic expression. And finding a way to, I mean, there is a sweet spot. You can make a living off of your personal art. That's very rare, but I'm trying to at least start having a better ratio between how much time I put on personal projects and client stuff. Even just writing down your ideas is an important step, even if you can't really work on it. You're planting seeds when you sketch out a thumbnail or just write down your idea. That's planting seeds that will grow. It's all part of the process. I have to remind myself of that. So on this little tiny spectral highlight, I'm keeping just a little bit of a gap in between the darkest part and this mid part here. I think that makes it look kind of cool. Oh, so now it gets bigger down here. I'll actually start to make it get bigger here. Hi NGK. You say, I tried a demo of Toon Boom back when I still used Windows. What did you think of Toon Boom? Do you use TVPaint? Or what are you on right now? Okay, this is coming along. But yeah, like I said, the Toon Shader took maybe a minute, and I've been doing these cel shaded highlights for several minutes now. But there's no way a Toon Shader could do this frame by frame animation that I'm doing. It wouldn't be able to figure this out in the same way, because there's imperfections to the human hand that make things more interesting sometimes. Just doing my onion skinning on to make sure these are going to be less jittery, finding the tips of these spectral highlights here to make them ease into each other a little more fluidly. Okay, so I know this is the final frame that needs to lead back into the first frame. And I'm gonna get a little highlight going over here on the left side. Let's shoot up. Make this a little smaller. Okay. Save my April foolishness. Angie K says, no, I have a Linux now. I use Synfig Studio as my main animation program. Interesting. I haven't used that one. Is it like Krita? I know that one's free. I haven't used it yet either. Also want to try Flip Studio. I want to try doing animation tutorials on free programs, because the frame by frame process can be done on anything that has a timeline and layers. So I don't want people to be intimidated by Toon Boom or TVPaint, thinking you have to spend a ton of money to do animation. And of course Blender's free as well, and I mean you can do pretty much everything in Blender. The learning curve is quite steep. However, there's also a ton of tutorials on Blender. It's an extremely active user base. Tons of tutorials on YouTube. Mostly want to learn Blender for doing low poly type animation, and also hybrid between 2D animation and 3D, using Blender more as a tool to create 3D spaces for the 2D characters to be in, or to do vehicle design, or things that would be much easier to deal with as 3D models rather than animating frame by frame. Also maybe some like texture mapping stuff like Tekken Concrete, where they had real 2D painted, hand painted backgrounds mapped onto 3D environments, created a really cool hybrid look. Yeah, I've been animating on it and animating on and off in Krita, but Synfig was the program I finished stuff in. Alright, that's good to know. I'll definitely check it out. And the frames are starting to overlap as it comes down. And this is gonna stretch up. Oh, I see how this is gonna link up. Let's see here. Gotcha. So this frame here links up to here. Okay. I need to make this highlight a little bigger. And that links to here. Make sure this in between is got some overlapping. sometimes I need to erase things I already did and reposition them. That's one downside of going straight ahead animation, is it's more random, spontaneous, so sometimes things can move around and shift weirdly. Whereas pose to pose, you know exactly where you're going, it's just a matter of linking it up in between the poses. Which is what I did for the actual animation of this goopy thing. I started to say this is keyframe 1, and then I did this frame, so this most different frame up here, and then in between here and here put a breakdown in between, and then it was just a matter of in-betweening between the key, the breakdown, and this key, and then a matter of in-betweening between this key, add a new breakdown that goes down back into the starting key. It's a really simple formula, but it's effective for doing morphing type loops. So this one's getting pretty close. The spectral highlight that comes down here needs to link back up to the beginning. Oh, I have Plants vs. Zombies stuck in my head. Been getting addicted to that game. I got a ROM. Oh wait, am I allowed to say that? I don't know. I am playing a lot of games on the Nintendo DS currently that I didn't play before. And it's fun. And I'm watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I accidentally signed up for Amazon Prime for like the 5th time in the past couple years. So I'm taking advantage of Prime Video, trying to watch something I've never seen before. And it is definitely something I've never seen before. I don't know if I can recommend it, but I am enjoying it. Actually, I don't know. It's like, how do you recommend something? You have to know the person, you have to know what they're into. It's like, would I recommend it to someone who's never seen anime? Well, it depends on the person. I would recommend Cowboy Bebop to someone who's never seen anime. But then it's like, I don't know. It just depends on the person, really. I'm very particular about what I like. Like if someone asks me if I like anime, it's like saying, do you like books? It's like, it just depends on the book, you know? Do I like Twilight? No. Or like, do you like TV? Do you like TV shows? I like Breaking Bad, but like 99% of TV shows I wouldn't be interested in. The same goes to anime. It's not a genre, it's literally just, I mean, the word anime means Japanese animation, but there's certain stylistic choices and storytelling tropes that are common to that word, but then you have unique artists working within that umbrella term anime. Like Miyazaki, a Miyazaki movie is different than Pokemon, but are they both technically anime by the dictionary definition of the word? So like, when someone asks, do I like anime, I just say it depends on which one we're talking about. Same thing with music or anything else. Like, do you like music? I love music, but I also hate music, depending on what it is. There's that quote, the message, or the medium is the message. But I think that's ridiculous, because the message is the message. The medium is the medium. They're not, the medium isn't the message. I don't know why I'm talking about this. Sometimes I just start talking about stuff. Then I start thinking about talking and how weird it is. And I've noticed I kind of every single time I stream, I start talking about talking, and maybe I don't know. I guess it's just to have something to talk about. And this spectral loop is gonna start shrinking. I'm gonna make it a little more chubby as it comes in here. And I'm kind of making the top part of it flat and the bottom part curved, like a orange slice. Sometimes things are more interesting if you have a straight part and then the opposite side is curved. See that a lot in I see that a lot on human anatomy type tutorials where they say to make one side of the arm or leg or body complex, the other side simple. Or in other words, one part have lumps, the other part be more straight to oppose it. Save it. Oh boy. What's up, Apple Pretz? Yo, Micah, what do you think of the rise of indie animation and the potential it has for a new way of storytelling for animators? Do I think? I mean, it's all super good. It's definitely becoming less barrier entry. Same thing with music. Everyone has GarageBand or plays guitar now. It's not just a matter of everyone plays an instrument, but now the distribution, you aren't just limited to radio. Like back in the 90s, wherever you lived, you were basically a victim of your geography, in the sense that you only knew what you had physical access to, you were close to, the bands that were playing in your area, or whatever your radio DJ decided that you should listen to. Super duper hard to discover music on your own. Same thing with animation now. It's not like back in the day where you had to work for a studio. I mean, you had people like Bill Plimpton and other more indie type animators who were submitting to festivals, but even that's a barrier to entry. Now you can totally skip the festival circuit and just build an audience on YouTube, or like I don't know if Newgrounds is still a thing, but just the internet in general. So you have the distribution issue is that you have unlimited access. The con to that is that there's now unlimited competition, and the attention spans are shrinking. There's more things to be distracted by. There's way more competition, and so it's much harder to actually capture an audience, in the sense that you're competing with all media that's ever been created, past and present. So it's like you're not just competing with your peers, you're also competing with everything on Netflix, everything that has ever been made ever. So there's pros and cons to every situation. And then like in terms of learning animation, it's amazing now, because not only do you have books like Richard Williams' The Survival Kit, but countless YouTube, internet forums. You can connect with people through social media, ask questions, get working on projects around places that you never would physically visit or live. So yeah, it's like everything has a double-edged sword, in my opinion. But in terms of the best era to be living in, I don't know what else I was gonna say, but I don't know anything. Well, I don't know what I was gonna say about that. I think I was just gonna kind of say the stuff I just said about it's all pros and cons, but I'd much rather be. It's like I'd say I'd much rather be working right now, but if I was born in a different time, I would have a different brain under different circumstances, different experiences. So I might not want to be in this circumstance. Maybe I would have rather be working in a studio with fellow animators and having that camaraderie. And maybe, I'm sure it was an exhilarating time in the 20s and 30s when they were doing more rubber hose type stuff and figuring out how to push the principles of animation, how to, figuring out like layers and eventually making the multi-plane camera. I'm sure that was just the biggest rush ever. Whereas now, sometimes we take certain things for granted. Like even coloring right now, this would have taken so much more time to color on cells, have a whole process. But now I can just color immediately and see results. So in that sense, it would have been way harder to be an indie animator back then. Because, animation is inherently collaborative, but it doesn't have to be limited to working with other people necessarily. But I would potentially like to work with other people more. We all specialize in different things. I'm almost done with this here loop. Yes, and have you never come across animators using paper, peg bars, punched Acme paper so far in your career? At least draw roughs on paper and then clean up digitally? Japan still draws on paper. I actually started out on paper, but doing more like flip books. I see sometimes, I've seen quite a few indie animators who still will do certain things on paper. In terms of like more experimental animation, I can't pronounce a lot of their names, but I know one of them's like Jake Fried. He draws everything physical still, and like Felix Cole Groove, forget his last name, but he's like very famous on YouTube. Of course does digital animations, but I will see him do like short little hand-drawn ones as well that I'll post on Twitter, just like a short loop. So I think in terms of like doing like an animated production, like a short film or even feature film, you're not gonna see it purely physical media. But in terms of like doing shorter experimental things, yes, you'll still see it. Even in like Wolf Walkers or Wolf Children, I don't know, Brittany will have to help me on that. It's by that studio that did Secret of the Kells. They do kind of a hybrid, and they had one scene that was, the animators spent like 9 months on, that was purely drawn on physical paper, and it was like a 3D running scene on a wolf running through a city with like graphite, really rough, sketchy paper. So I really like hybrid type stuff. It's like knowing when to use the medium for different effects. And even though I work digitally, I always try to make things still have a traditional media type vibe to them. It's like when I do the backgrounds, we'll add paper textures over it, rough it up, make sure it's not too clean. And then when I do the compositing, I'll often add film grain or some type of thing like that to make the digital less harsh. Because sometimes digital animation, especially in the kind of more 2000s, early 2000s, when anime was going pretty much fully digital. I know you said like they're doing the rough animation on paper, but in terms of the actual thing you're seeing when they do the cleanup, paintings, everything, pretty much all digital. And sometimes it would just look really cold and kind of flat, lacking life, lacking the grit of cell animation. But I think it's a lot of anime is getting a lot better at that now, and I've even noticed them doing things like slight color aberration or just roughing things up to make them look less super silky clean. I think I'm almost pretty much done with this loop. And the other ones I color, I might just use the same orange and then do a color adjust later to change color so I get like purple, red, so all these different colors. The Wolf Walker scene was James Baxter. Yeah, he usually works on paper. James Baxter. I guess I'm pretty much done with this one. I'll probably do some touch-up stuff later when I'm by myself. But I might also just check something here with the Toon Shader. Duplicate my flats. And I'm just gonna play around with the Toon Shader a bit. I might try multiply. See if this does anything interesting. My Toon Shadow. And bring it out a bit. Change the direction. Maybe make the top part darker. Could bring this thing up here. This thing right here changes the softness versus the hardness of the shading. If you're in TVPaint, the profile preset, the more you have it up here, the harder it is. The more you put it over here, the more soft and more gradations of shading there are. I don't know if I like this. Steven Universe was animated on paper. According to a web source I found, one of the creators, Ian Flynn, said that every cleanup frame was scanned and then digitally ink and paint everything else. Oh, that's cool. That's how they did Cuphead. To keep it looking really authentic. They were gonna do the coloring on cells, but found it to be too cumbersome, and they found you could still get it to look really traditional, even if the digital painting was done digitally. So yeah, and then also like post-processing techniques, you can make it blend in well. I don't know if I like this multiply thing. Try it back on add, see if I just can get some more stuff going here. Okay, this kind of looks interesting. Might bring this, make it a little softer. It's kind of subtle. Zoom in a little bit. Let's see what this looks like. So this is with the extra gradations on. This is, whoops. Okay, so this is with the extra gradation. This is without. What do you think? Keep it or dude, this is the old way. This is the new way. What does anyone think? Do you think it's too much to have an extra Toon Shader on, or just keep it with one? That's the extra Toon Shader. That's no Toon Shader. Ooh, maybe that looks kind of cool. Make it less concentrated everywhere and make it more coming in one direction. I will say there's a lot of kind of cleanup brushes digitally that emulate the hand-drawn look really well, almost indiscernible. I guess I like that. I think I'm done with this loop for right now. And I just want to say thank you everyone who's watching and who will be watching in the future. I have more animation tutorials on my channel, music videos, and eventually I want to start doing more personal projects like I said. Kind of the last sort of narrative thing I did was City of Venom. Me and Brittany worked for the YouTube channel called Mashed. They do funny, silly type parody type videos using popular video game characters like Sonic, Mario, Dragon Ball Z characters, etc. But this one was about Venom, Eddie Brock, and Dr. Octopus. And there's a zany battle. It's in the 1930s rubber hose style. We worked on it for like 6 months. But it's on their channel. So I want to make some more kind of rubber hose classic cartoons that I can post on this channel. And potentially make like a series or something. But at the same time, I have to pay rent. And YouTube is like really cool for putting stuff out there, but it's doesn't really pay bills. So it's just finding that balance between being pragmatic and doing things that I find psychologically rewarding and challenging. I'm gonna save my April foolishness. And this is another one. It's kind of like a something. This one, I think I'm gonna color purple. Purple is the best color. It's interesting because red and blue are like rivals for people's favorite colors. But if you think about it, purple is the best color because it's both red and blue. It just has a mysterious vibe I really quite like. Hello, Mr. Shift Glitch. Thanks for stopping by. To make animation look like a painting, well, I guess that would be a lot in the actual coloring process you do and the brushes you're using. I know Photoshop has a bajillion brushes. You can use Photoshop brushes in Clip Studio as well. And of course Clip Studio has its own brushes, but that would kind of depend on the program you're using. And you want to have things like jitter and things that disperse the brush effect so it's not super clean and perfect. And to get more of a painterly look, of course, you can create multiple layers. And the more layers you add, the more gradations and depth you can get. The problem is that it's like one of the reasons anime and animation is shaded in flat colors traditionally is that it's much easier to control from frame to frame. If you're going for a painterly look, you're going to have a lot of differences between frame, so you'd want to do probably a lower frame rate, otherwise it's going to look kind of seizure inducing and strobing. So it could kind of look cool as like a stop motion type thing. Like that could be quite interesting. Like it's like hand drawn but at a very low frame rate, and it looks like stop motion paintings. Gonna bring this out a bit. Okay, I'm gonna make this a little more solid. What's up, Elisa Guzman? You say, my husband's favorite color is purple. Good answer. That's cool. It's weird. My girlfriend's favorite color is also purple. Maybe it's, I don't know, I felt like I was kind of more quirky than I maybe was, because I felt like purple's sort of underground, you know? But turns out it's pretty popular. Yeah. Okay. I gotta select all, apply the effect. Today I'm drinking oolong tea. I haven't drank coffee in about 3 years. It was making me angry and irritable. But that might also be from the environment I was living in, now that I think about it. But I'm sure the coffee enhanced those getting easily controlled by your emotions. I noticed coffee kind of, at least for me, it amplified whatever I was feeling. So if I was excited, I was extra excited to the point of being anxious. And then, like, if I was able to focus, drink a little coffee, I feel like I'm focusing better. Then there was definitely a tipping point where I'd feel like I want to have another cup. But then I just become to where I'm hyper focused in an unhealthy way, to where I'm also actually less productive, because then I start focusing on things that truly don't matter. So it's like I could focus harder, but my ability to discern what was worth focusing on was completely gone. So like, get distracted by something and focus on it that wasn't worth focusing on. And then it was also kind of making me toot. So I quit drinking coffee, and I find tea is a much easier, smooth sailing caffeine intake for me. You just have a few in the morning, in the day, maybe 2 or 3, and then in the evening I'll have an herbal tea, or just like an herbal tea. And I find this keeps me pretty level-headed and happy. But everyone's body is a little different. TVPaint is such a powerhouse of software. The automatic coloring that allows artists to color their cleanup drawings at a click of a button makes things so convenient. Huh. I actually don't know if I do that. I kind of color my own way. I showed it earlier in the video. I know there's like a CT something layer, but I just think my way's the best. But it's probably not the correct way. It's just what I do. Brittany says, we're watching an animation live stream. We're probably a bit of a quirky bunch. Probably. Thanks. I wanted the paint scenes for the spirit realm and spirits, and the physical things and people to be drawn cleaner. With the more evil the spirit, the more jagged and scribbly they get. There's some, so I'll let this finish, but there's some kind of cool brushes in TVPaint actually, now that I think about it. I'll just show you. This has to take a second. But there's some silly brushes that are kind of pointless, but also some ones that are like fire and lightning bugs or something. I'll let this play for a second just so I can make sure this worked out okay. Alright, that's fine. Let me create a new layer, make these invisible, and I'll play around with a couple brushes. So, let me save my process. Oh, I'm so glad I'm saving. The last time I streamed, I clicked close project, and I thought I clicked save, and it said, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I want to save, but I deleted it, and it was a sad story. So this, oh man, alright, my eyesight sucks. Okay, tool presets. Yes, so this comes with TVPaint. You can also download on the forums other cool custom things people have made. But this comes with TVPaint, and you get like some different brushes here, like color pencil, acrylic. No, this isn't even showing up. Like oh, it's because I have the color set to black. I have specialness. Okay, so this is like a brush, like, so you're saying like evil spirit, like, see, you can already see like the outlines and everything. You can get some kind of cool stuff there. And also, well, you'd want to probably adjust your pressure sensitivity on your pen so you can have more control, more variation. Some of these brushes are kind of not that great in my opinion, but it's whatever. Like, if you build up layers, you can get things looking pretty cool. But a brush I really like isn't this one, but this is like a rainbow brush, totally gimmicky. It's kind of weird they even have this in here, because like, what are you gonna do with this? You know, it's just kind of silly. And then they have like this dirt brush and like a couple stamps, trees. I mean, very gimmicky. I don't know how you could use that cactus type thing, but the one I really like is this fire brush. Super powerful. You can do a lot with this, and I've built multiple different types of effects with this. So like, for one thing, obviously you can do fire. So like, already in like a matter of seconds you get this like little flame burst going here. And you can change the jitter down here, the opacity. So if I lower the opacity, then you get more of the darker tones. So I'll lower the opacity again to like 2, and now it's like mostly just the reds of the fire. And then the more you go over it with your brush, the more you build up the more yellow parts. So you have a lot of cool stuff you can do with this. And of course you can change the colors around. So if you're doing like magic, for instance, like magical things, already look, this looks like wizard type magic swirls, you know? So this is a super cool brush. I love this brush, TVPaint. Some magical stuff going here. Yeah. Oh, and then you have like the paper texture. So without the paper, so this is with the paper. Just imagine like this glowing torch, and then this is without the paper. You get more of like a beam of light, like that. Like that looks like a Kamehameha wave. Purple though, but yeah, pretty cool. And then another brush I like is this cloud brush. So you can get like steam. You can imagine this coming out of the top of a train and the smoke dissipates. Or like, let me go back to my fire brush. I'm gonna try something. So I'm just gonna imagine a little, make the size bigger. Imagine like a little campfire going here. Get some flames going up here. Like literally just a matter of seconds, you can already get cool stuff with these brushes. And then I'll go to the smoke, and I'll change the smoke colors a little bit. Then you can just kind of Imagine. I don't know if the smoke would be that color, but I'll make this a little bigger. Well, whatever. Just imagine the smoke is really dusty. And look, you already got some, like a whole thing going here, and you can imagine this being animated. It'd look kind of cool. Actually, let's show you. Like, yeah, whatever. And there's like a tornado-y brush. Oh, that's cool. I've never used this brush. What the heck? Whoa, this is like a wispy smoke brush. How have I never seen this one? Oh my gosh. That is crazy. The thing about animating with these brushes though is they're a little bit more unpredictable. But I'll just try. I'm just gonna try animating a wispy thing here. Just doing like a simple S curve going up. Let me get my remote, so put it on 8 frames a second since we're not in betweening this. Just have it be kind of a slower thing. Just look at, it's like already there's a loop with a cool interesting brush. I need to write this down so I don't forget. I'm gonna make a whole VJ loop pack using this brush, doing some kind of special effects with it, because I quite like this. Let's try out some other brushes. Oh yeah, this was the other brush I use a lot. This one's like lightning bugs. This is what it looks like right out of the gate. And then you can make it bigger, say 500%, and it's this big. This brush is cool if you want to do stars or something. You can make some stars. Like there's already kind of a night scene, and I'll do some littler stars to give it more differences of sizes. So those are like the medium stars. Now I'll go down to 100%, add a few really smaller stars in here, and like just with these brushes, like you can get interesting little effects here that you wouldn't have been able to do like traditional media or other programs. So yeah, the custom brush builder in TVPaint's pretty cool. So like there's a nice scene, and what's cool about it of course is like with the timeline you can animate all this stuff quite easily. So like I'll just animate this little thing flying as if it was like a lightning bug, or not a lightning bug, maybe like a fairy, like Nami from Zelda. We'll have it coming in towards the screen, and then it's gonna arc up, fly away. Okay, so this is what this looks like. Like just a few seconds, and there's a little character, a little fairy flying towards the screen. And let's see if there's any other brushes on here. Well, yeah. Well, I have some other brushes that are, so this is the stack that comes with TVPaint, but then there's other brushes that I've downloaded. Like this one is the one I use on most of the cleanup, and it's basically this brush here. I like it because it has like a really traditional kind of cleanup type look to it. Like you can see, I'll zoom in more so you can see that it's not just like, okay, for context, here's the basic brush, like the normal round TVPaint brush, right? This is just normal pen. But then you have this custom brush that has variation in the width. So you see how this one is like totally perfectly normal, whereas this one, it wiggles. It got the wiggles. So when you're drawing with it, it just has a really cool like vibe that makes it feel more like it's drawn on cells or hand drawn, which, like I said, is something I'm always trying to kind of go for, is to, even though I'm working digitally, I want it to at least have more of a hand drawn physical paper type look. I'm not trying to deceive anyone, not trying to say this isn't digital, but I don't want to draw attention to the fact that it's digital. There's that Lackadaisy where they kind of draw attention to the fact that it's hand drawn by often having frames that show the actual construction lines underneath it. And that series does a good job of showing the hand drawn feeling that goes into the work. It's like, yeah. Oh man. And then, what was I talking? Oh, yeah. So that's my favorite brush to clean up with. And then this brush, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. Like, you got this. Just look at the textures on this. You can imagine, you know, even using this for like background stuff or animating with it. Like if you were animating like a Looney Tunes type mountain or something, you can do it like that. Then like this brush is kind of cool. I haven't really played with these brushes that much, but yeah. Whoops. This brush is kind of cool. What is this? Where did I got this from TVPaint forums? If you just search the custom brushes, you can probably find it, but it's called TIBC version 13. And it's got all these little brushes in here. This one has some kind of interesting special effects in here too. Well, that's another. See, there's like a exploding sun type brush. Lots of fire type effects. Maybe something about doing the glows is easier to build with. Oh, this is like a dot brush. Whoa, speed lines. Look at that. That's weird. I think I did something with this one before. These brush, yeah, with these ones, so I reduced the step. It makes them closer. I did an animation with this. You could do like a swirling galaxy. Like there's like a galaxy or like exploding stars or something. You could animate that like exploding out. If you were drawing all these dots one at a time, it would take eternity. could do interesting stuff with that. That could be used for snow. If it was falling, I'm doing like a snow. Maybe that's like a snowball coming towards you or something. Then you have smear brushes. It's not really showing the smear. But a lot of these brushes could be good for like abstract animation. Like if you were drawing those kind of Norman McLaren type things that go along with music, be like boop, boo-doo, something like that. You can imagine this happening to some kind of soundtrack. Maybe that's matching up with the music you're hearing right now. Uh-oh. Is my webcam broken? I'm broken. Well, I guess this is a good place to conclude this experiment of just playing around with the brushes. There's some smear. Anyways, there's some glitch effects. Glitch it up. Yeah, I mean, if I get Toon Boom, I'm still gonna use TVPaint for stuff. But I think Toon Boom would be better for doing like full type productions, movies and things like that. Ooh, that's like a fog effect. Pretty cool. Alright, that concludes today's video. Thanks a lot for watching. Be sure to check out the other videos and tutorials on the channel. It helps the channel grow. And everyone have a fantastic day. Remember to drink water. Remember to brush your teeth. And if you didn't floss, it didn't count. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.